Record. Okay, so the recording just started. Great. So my name is Derek Baker. I'm coordinating the EU Access Sub project called SolarHub, where we're developing a Greek Turkish solar energy excellence hub. And so as part of this, I've been creating what's called the Widening Impacts Platform, where we're working to bring together different Excellence Sub projects and use this to create an Excellence Hub community. And so we've had 10 webinars so far, 9 of the webinars by Excellence Hub projects, 1 by a teaming project. And so for me, this webinar today is nice because the previous 10 webinars were all discussing individual projects, and there was some talk about how we may try to collaborate at the end. But this is the first webinar that's presenting outcomes from a joint Excellence Hub event. And this happened last July in Ioannina in Greece, where we had representatives from 7 different Excellence Hub projects come together to explore the future of energy, food, water systems. And so beyond the title of energy, water, food, I don't have a clear idea about where this could go, but I have this feeling that there may be opportunities to also integrate health and well-being. And so some of the other Excellence Hub projects are talking about Mediterranean diet. And so all of this kind of starts to come together where I could see maybe community-based solutions, bringing together all these different elements. And so to me, this would be really, really interesting. So ultimately, what I am really interested is trying to catalyze collaborations that lead to holistic solutions that target complex societal challenges. And so with this, I will give the floor over to our speaker today, Odysseas. So Odysseas, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Derek. Hi, everyone. I see a few familiar faces and a few people I don't know. So let me share the presentation because I don't want to take any more of your time than I have promised. So we are going to talk today about the future of energy, water, food systems as we saw it, as we experienced it through a joint foresight exercise. And with that, I want to give you some context. Of course, Derek already gave some information. We organized this workshop in Ioannina this July, and we brought together 6 Excellence Hub projects to discuss about this topic. And the idea started some time ago when we were discussing with Derek and trying to find some methods or some ideas on how to make our project meetings more engaging and more interesting. And we thought that we could do something more other than presenting the progress of our work packages. So this is how this workshop came to be. And today I'm going to present the methodology behind that Foresight workshop. After I give you, of course, some a quick overview of what Foresight and Futures is. And I'm going to show you some of the results that we gathered through the responses and the collaborative exercise that we worked, and present some scenarios. We have 4 scenarios for future alternative scenarios, and some recommendations that come along with these scenarios. And I would like to, once I present them, to open the floor to some questions and discussions, and maybe tap into the experience and knowledge of some of our participants here and ask them a few things and ask them to comment. Before I jump into the presentation, allow me to introduce myself. I'm involved in both projects, in SolarHub in ECHO from the very beginning. I have a background on engineering, information technology, and financials, and I have been dealing with innovation and risk finance and digital transformation for most of the 25 plus years of my career. And of course, the last few years, I'm quite involved in foresight and future studies and AI governance because, well, everybody's everybody's trying to do something around AI. So I had to find something for myself. But I see myself more as a generalist and facilitator, trying to bring knowledge and combine experiences. So we cannot think or talk about the future without experiencing or thinking about the past. And we need to go back and think what the past has to teach us. And I want to take you back in the end of the 19th century and show you this picture. At that point, the biggest problem in the world was the horse manure crisis. And the streets were filled with manure, and everybody in the political and the scientific world was thinking that this is a major problem, and somehow they had to deal with it. Now, a number of solutions and innovations was presented, but in the end, it wasn't any of that innovations that prevailed. It was the automotive industry that eliminated one of the biggest challenges in big cities infrastructure. And within 20 years, there wasn't any problem. So the future was never easy to predict. And that brings us to Donald Rumsfeld. And those of you who remember the first Gulf War may remember him. He was the Secretary of Defense of the United States and said about these things.
We cannot hear it.
Voice doesn't come through.
Yeah, we cannot hear it, Odysseus.
So Donald Rumsfeld became quite famous in the cycles of futurists at that point. And he identified one of the biggest problems that we have when we try to discuss about future strategies. That there are factors that we don't know, and even worse, we don't know that we don't know them. And that brings us to this acronym, which also became one of the popular acronyms in future studies, and it's VUCA. We live in a VUCA world, and by that we mean that we live in a world that is volatile, it is uncertain, it's very complex, and also very ambiguous. And probably I don't have to justify this, especially today with all the geopolitical turbulence that we see. So what is foresight? Foresight is a methodology that allows us to look into the future in a structured way. It's not predicting what will happen, it's exploring what might happen. And it is different from forecast because forecast is more, let's say, quantitative. We try to find past trends, data, and crunch them and come up with sometimes with a number or some numbers that are never 100% accurate. And they may be valuable, but they do not allow us to see and explore the big picture. On the other hand, foresight explores multiple futures. So there is a range, a possibility of futures that can happen. And we need to understand what could happen in order to plan for that. So one of the most important things when you start discussing about the future is set a focal question. This is crucial because we cannot expand indefinitely. We need to limit ourselves so that we're able to discuss and explore something that is tangible. And it allows us to define the environment, define the time horizon and the context. So within that context, we find the energy, water, and food systems in 2050. And the question that we asked ourselves was, what is the futures, and it's plural here, we can imagine for this nexus, for the energy, water, food systems nexus? by 2050 at the local or a global level in the context of climate change. So the methodology that, sorry about that. The methodology that we used is a typical Foresight methodology. We first need to map, define the environment, then we need to scan and identify the drivers, the forces behind these changes, and then we need to imagine what the future may be. And on the scenarios that we build on this exercise, this imaginative futures, we can act and we create a vision and a roadmap. To do that, we used some templates. We split the group in smaller groups, in teams, and we asked the teams to envision, to think about the environment, define the key actors, infrastructures, the forces that drive them. Then we dug deeper. We went into the weak signals, into trends, megatrends. And I want to stay a little bit here because megatrends is something that we all can understand. They are major. We see them. All of us have come across studies about megatrends 2025 or 2050 or whatever. Trends are visible. We can feel them. We can see them. But it is weak signals that are more interesting because they allow us maybe to tap into these unknown unknowns, things that may come. And so we explored these weak signals and trends, and we also examined how the megatrends affect and impact our topic. Once we did that, we then had to visualize the future scenarios, and there are multiple methods to do that. There are various methods. We used one which is very popular. Dator was one of the pioneers in Foresight, and he expressed his ideas about the future and created the laws of the future. And among the laws was this graph that shows how the future may evolve. And you see that there are 4 different options, and across these 4 options, we worked on explicit scenarios. So we adopted the scenario of continued growth. The future continues, it's a steady growth. Often is the default scenario in planning. It's not always good. Then there is transformation. We have radical change, not necessarily always for the best, but it's a radical change. We have a discipline scenario where we have stronger governments, we have more regulations, we have some cultural shifts, and then we have the worst scenario of all, which is the collapsed scenario. Once we have these scenarios, and this is how we map them and how we describe them, then we were able to describe what the vision of the future might be. And the vision means that we have a scenario, we see how the future may evolve, but if it's a negative scenario, then we need to find ways to mitigate it. If it is a possible scenario, a positive scenario, then we need to find ways to achieve that. So this is why we work backwards. We have the scenarios, these scenarios may happen, not explicitly, so we never have one scenario materialize as we described it. But we have bits and pieces from various scenarios materialize. And then based on this, we can always adapt, and we can examine and re-examine what is happening. So these are the responses on the key stakeholders mapping. You can see that, of course, we have a representation from all the quadruple helix. We have the government that regulates. We have academia and research and knowledge sector. We have the industry and the market and the civil society. Now, at this stage, I would like to ask you to contribute to this question, and you can either scan this, or I will also copy the link to the participation link to the chat. Where is it? Okay, so here's the chat. And we can see the results here. So to your mind, who is the most important stakeholder in this nexus? And I keep the slide so that you can see what we have imagined. So we have everything here, but not every stakeholder has the same value. So this is where I need your contributions, and I need them in the question that I have posted, so that we can also discuss a little bit. So who are the key player in your system? Which stakeholder you believe is more important than others? You can continue voting, but I will go in the next question. So here we have the critical infrastructures. And the critical infrastructures are, as you see, representative. We have the energy systems, we have water infrastructure, we have food and agriculture, digital and data systems, circular economy systems, research and innovation, climate resilience, community and social infrastructure, financial governance, and mobility and transport. Mobility and transport was something I didn't expect to see in this nexus, but yet it was something that appeared. So now I will, yes, thank you. I will change the question. You can still vote using the same link and the QR code if you want on rating. What's the most critical and essential infrastructure to your mind? Again, we have a representative set of everything. So I think everybody and every infrastructure is represented in here. But of course, not all of them have the same value. You can continue voting, and I will go to the next slide. The next question dealt with critical uncertainties. And that was very interesting, and it was more difficult to imagine in the sense that we don't always know these uncertainties now. There may appear some unknown unknowns, or even known unknowns may appear, and the environment may change, so geopolitical changes may come. So the question was, which future developments are both important and unpredictable? Something that may come and disrupt the whole ecosystem, something may change everything. So these are the questions, the answers that we got. Climate and environmental futures. Of course, we know about climate change. This is something that we already have it in the agenda. We know about resource scarcity, about technological disruption, especially now in the age of AI, about energy transition pace, food security, water security, societal powers, geopolitical instability. There are obvious overlaps within these uncertainties, and these uncertainties are not stable. At some point, we may see something becoming more prominent, more prevalent. Another exercise we usually do in Foresight workshop is trying to map all the key events and decisions and developments of the past 50 years. And this is an interesting exercise because it teaches you what to look for in the future. So you get a better understanding of what events shaped the world today, so you can better understand current and future events. Finally, we delved into the trends, the mega trends, the trends and the weak signals, and we dug deeper into how they impact our nexus. And you can see that, we have climate change, we have, of course, geopolitical instability, technological acceleration, demographic shifts, urbanization, environmental awareness, and energy transition. Everything is here. But what is more interesting is the deeper look into trends and weak signals. And at that point, I want to ask you a third question. Here, what did we miss in the weak signals? So these are the things that we cut. These are the things that we discussed, and they are here. But I'm sure that something is missing, and our struggle should always try to find what is missing, what weak signals we cannot see. We try to scan the environment as wide as possible and examine everything that may affect our systems, but everything is changing so fast that sometimes we may miss some things. So this is why it is very important to try to update these ideas every so often. And in fact, foresight is not something stable. It's not something that you do once and you're done with it. You need to update it at least every few years so that you know what has happened, and you can assess what values and factors you counted correctly and what not. And finally, of course, we identified some secondary and emerging sources. Again, something that struck me was tourism. I didn't expect tourism and dependencies here, but of course, it is a factor. And we have seen how tourism affects, for instance, energy and water in cities, and how new hospitality trends like the Airbnb affect housing. So it is something that should be here. I don't want to stay a lot in the presentation because I will share it with you, and you can study it, and you can see everything that is in here. So I will go to the scenarios, and these are the 4 scenarios that we described. Scenarios are always narrative. They are quantitative. They are qualitative. They're not quantitative. You won't see a lot of numbers here, and even if you see numbers, they are not justified by anything. It's our intuition. This one is a positive scenario. So we are talking about global stability. We are talking about decarbonization, about renewable energy, and social progress. However, we also have the collapse scenario, which is the negative one. So cascading crises, climate disasters, rising inequality, resource competition, struggle for basic needs. Again, remember that no single scenario materializes as we have described it, but you can see bits and pieces in reality from each scenario. And based on how the actual life evolves, you can see how you can adapt some scenarios, or you can approach the future in a different way. Gattaca is a world of discipline, strong governance. So this is a more balanced scenario. We are giving centralized government control and strict regulations, maybe losing some of the civil liberties that we now have in favor of a common good. So there's always a trade-off. And this scenario may be good for sustainability, but maybe not so good for civil liberties, for instance. And finally, we have the fourth scenario about transformative innovation. Again, this is mostly positive scenario. We have power shifts, we have breakthroughs. It's transformative, but we cannot, we're not sure yet where it will, how and where it will end up. So I invite all of you to read the scenarios. I think they're interesting in the narrative, and remember that all these are from insights coming from a collaborative exercise. So it was 50 plus stakeholders, 50 plus researchers, industry stakeholders, people from SMEs, people from the government that evolved and worked on these ideas and described this scenario. And based on this scenario, we extracted these recommendations, and you can see them here. So decentralized energy and resource systems was one of the most prominent ones. AI-powered resource management platforms. We cannot ignore AIs here, so we better put it into good use. Circular economy marketplaces is something that already exists, at least in some parts of the world. Education skill platforms, and of course, collaborative governance and innovation services. These are things that we want to implement in order to avoid the catastrophic scenarios and go as close as possible to the positive scenarios. Of course, nothing is guaranteed, and nobody could be sure that even if we implement these recommendations, we will end up in a positive scenario. But this is at least something that we can start discussing. And of course, a lot of detail is missing, and it's not something that we could do in a workshop, but these are at least directions that you can use as a starter in a bigger discussion. I will return to these recommendations later on, but I'm closing this presentation with one more thing. In SolarHub, as we try to address some of the challenges, we have an open innovation challenge, and this is basically problems and challenges that are actual, that are coming from the industry and are described by the industry. And we have 7 challenges coming from our industrial partners with their current status and what is required. And we want to invite solutions from companies and research teams and innovators, and invite them to work with us, work with our consortium, to define some solutions that could go either to market or could go into a new research project. So it's a very easy and flexible process. You can just submit your ideas, and we will start working together if you have something really to offer. And of course, we always look in front, and there are plenty of opportunities in 26, 27 and beyond. And we hope and think and believe that this wider network that Dirk has put together with the widening impacts will be a start that will bring together the different partners, different ideas, and will help us mature some of the ideas into future projects, into future research initiatives, or even into commercial initiatives. So I want to finish here the presentation, but I will go back to this slide because I want to have a discussion and open the floor for questions with, yes, this slide in front of us. So that's all from me. We have a few questions to ask, but before we do that, let's open the floor for questions.
Thank you very much for the presentation. So Eleni from NTUA was asking where she could find the material. I know that you published the Foresight report. I was trying to find the website link to share this in the chat. I didn't find it. Can you share the link to the website?
We have it in our website, but I will circulate it to all participants, of course, with the links and the PDFs.
Okay, thank you. And so I think everyone who wants to should be able to open up their camera and open up their microphones to facilitate the discussions. And so maybe people can raise their hands if they have questions. And so I would actually like to start this by asking Demetrius from Electra Energy. Could you please confirm that you can hear me, Demetrius from Electra?
Yes. Hi, Derek.
Yeah, okay, great. Thank you. So as some background, Demetrius is with Electra Energy, which is an energy community located in Ioannina, and he was actually one of the main organizers. We did a lot of logistical planning for this meeting last July. And so he took us on a tour of the town of Ioannina and talked about the energy community and how this is actually embedded in the community. And for me, this idea about the energy community not only addressing energy, but kind of larger societal goals where they had like a house for elderly people, where they had integrated this. And I think that they are actually growing some of their own food. And so this has been kind of catalyzing questions on my mind about how all of these ideas can be applied at the community level and whether or not it can go beyond the energy, food, water nexus to also include things like health and well-being. And so I think that obviously there's certain sub-projects focused on the health area, but one of their components is the Mediterranean diet. And then obviously at SolarHub, we have the agro-PV, and so we have this overlap. And then in Ioannina, you have the house for the elderly people, which is part of the energy communities. You have the garden, they're growing their own food. It's not only the diet, but it's also the well-being and being active. And so I would like to get your perspectives on kind of how this may be applied to community level solutions that go beyond just the energy, the water, the food, to also thinking about well-being, diet, and health.
Yes, thank you, Derek. Actually, today I was in this place that you mentioned already. So we are continuing over there. It is a place that hosts people that have mental issues and mental challenges. So we are going to build there a community based, as we called it, urban agri-PV. So it will be an agri-PV system where we will be able in this place, which is located in the city center of Ioannina, to not only to produce energy, but also to produce food for the people, for the beneficiaries of this place, and also to do it in a socially and organizationally innovative way. And this is the key term that I would like to highlight. It is about organizational innovation, what energy communities and similar models to energy communities have to propose and to to highlight is the organizational innovation. So it is not only about what we do, but how we do it. It is about the governance model. It is about how the benefits are shared in a fair way, and it is about the co-ownership. So this can be applied not only on energy, this can be applied also on food production, on combination. Now we're also working on mobility here in Ioannina, on a mobility scheme where some members of the energy community are going to co-own a fleet of EVs, so they can share their fleet of EVs. And the new thing that we have already started is about collective renovation. So again, you have citizens that they want to renovate their houses. So through this energy community, they can share expertise, they can locate suitable experts in order to help them out. And of course, they can raise capital and they can co-invest in these initiatives. So it is about a more holistic approach to challenges, to tackling the challenges that we are facing. And it is not only about energy production. It is, of course, about energy production, but it is also about food, housing, mobility, all these things under the umbrella of the energy community that we have here, and not only here, but also in other places across Europe and the world. And of course, we will keep you updated about the progress of the place that you visited, because we are hoping that within the next month, it will be ready to be, it will be operational.
Okay, thank you. So again, I really enjoyed the tour that you gave at Ioannina, and the work there is really, really interesting. Congratulations. And again, I think it's an area where the different exercise projects coming from different thematic areas can collaborate at this community level. And there may be some really interesting opportunities. And so we can also have comments and questions from other people.
Hello, everybody. Odysseus, can you give me the floor? Do I
Yes,
have the
Zoe.
floor? Yes.
Zoe, of
Hello.
course.
Yes, hello, everybody. I'm Zoe Odysseus. Thank you very much for the invitation. I'm working at McAfee, which is an advisory firm, essentially working very closely with innovators within the food tech, the biotech, and now the clean tech sector. So we're very much aligned with the work that you did in the Foresight. So I was interested to see, like results, like trends, mega trends. And I would like to highlight a few topics that are literally in the intersection of water, solar, and food system. And that is the rise of biotech within the microalgae and the seaweed microalgae world. That is something that is like becoming a hype. And initially I was interested because we are just like now starting to be, we kicked off the project on microalgae valorization essentially into food protein. And the title, like of the Foresight, like literally, like clicked all sectors that the project and the biotech on microalgae touches upon. So it's energy intensive. It uses like a solar power, hydrogen, or whatever renewable energy you need to use. It's about the food system, and it is about water consumption as well. So just wanted to highlight it as a subject for the intersection of everything that you wanted, that you raised. And I'm really looking forward to reading essentially the Foresight report. And there's plenty of collaboration for your new initiative, like on, like bringing, like people together and partners and different organizations. Odysseus already knows that both of us were quite active in the sector, in these sectors. So thank you.
Thank you, Zoe, so much.
no one has questions, I've got several here I can ask. And so there needs to be, X and sub projects have a lot of emphasis on skills development. And so I'm curious, Odysseus, what you see in terms of what we should be thinking about to enable this kind of interthematic collaboration under at least this energy, food, water umbrella, and maybe going on beyond into health and well-being. What are the skills that we need to be developing?
I see more and more lately, maybe it's a weak signal or becoming a trend. Advertisements for jobs coming from big players in the field, either corporations working on construction or infrastructures or renewables, looking for skilled professionals at a mid-lower level. I think this is something missing. We have the scientists, but often we miss the practitioners, that we will go for the hands-on installation, quality control, building of these infrastructures, and will be in the field. And I think this is something that the Commission has also identified. There are a few initiatives on green skills, blue skills, and usually they talk about mid-level skills. They're not talking about PhD level, master level scientists. We have that. They are trying to, let's say, close the gap into lower, more work-intensive skills rather than knowledge-intensive. So I think this is something that we need to explore, and especially now that AI does create a danger of breaking the low level of the career ladder. Whether it's true or not, we see a lot of companies, especially in the high-tech sector, letting people go. And even if this is something, if this is a trend that will change, even if AI will in fact create more jobs in the future, let's hope so, that doesn't address the current problem that we have. Because if we lose 1 or 2, 3 generations, or not generations, but if we lose, let's say, 10 years, what will happen with this generation? And how do we expect to have more skilled people later on if we don't give them the opportunity to start their career now?
Marcos, I think you have a question.
Yeah, actually, it is a question and a comment. I think, firstly, I would like to thank Odysseus for inviting me. I follow SolarHub projects because before 2 years, I was in the Technology Transfer Office of SERP, who participate as a research partner. Currently I represent Thesintech, which is one of the biggest 4th generation technology parks under construction in Thessaloniki. And I would like to ask Odysseus, and I don't know exactly the consortium, but I suppose many of you belong to the consortium, if it would be possible to use your method in our strategy next month, because we're in a phase of, let's say, completely, we try to reorganize the current things in the local or in the North Greece ecosystems. We have identified that most of the ingredients for large-scale innovation exist, but we need different organizational. I think the most crucial, as Mr. Kitsikopoulos said, is to identify ways to get them in the park in the proper ways, in the proper areas and spaces and buildings, along with their R&D infrastructure and skills in order to focus. Another thing related very much to megatrends is that we have decided initially to fund our ecosystem based on mega projects. Actually, it is the initial focus areas of Thesintechs because they have come in order to stay. It's not a typical project with specific budget deliverable and period. They are knowledge areas mainly, but if you see them as a knowledge platform, there are many verticals that they can arise through them based on megatrends, based on challenges, based on the risk strategy or EU challenges or megatrends. However, as a final comment is, I think nowadays it seems that everything normally or potentially has the same access to energy resources, to the same labor market. But the most crucial thing is how you organize things. I'm going back to the organizational innovation. I think it is the most important because it is the culture, it is the dynamics of human beings in order to address everything. Actually, it wasn't a question, but I'm trying to open windows for future cooperation. That's for the moment. I like Foresight. I followed some Foresight exercises because 1 decade, but now I think it has been mature. It seems to me more practical, and I would be happy to see more. Thank you.
Do you want to add anything? We have 2 more people with questions.
Yeah, I don't want to take the time from our participants. I just want to mention that more and more we see this type of tools and methodologies becoming necessary because it's the only way that you can involve all the stakeholders and bring them all in the same table. So you call it what you want, co-design, participatory, foresight. They are all parts of the same goal. And it is not, as I said, it's not something that you do once, but you need to include foresight into your strategy. Foresight without strategy doesn't mean anything. We do these exercises in order to plan for the future. We don't do them just to print a nice report. And any foresight report should lead to some action. So in having said that, I think, yeah, that it's very interesting to involve as many stakeholders as we can, because this is the only way to tap into their knowledge and experience.
Eleni?
Just, I don't know if anybody, I cannot see anybody else like having another question. Like, can I comment?
Eleni Hooley from NTUA has raised her hand. I don't know if she can hear us.
Yes, I can hear you. Okay, thank you very much for the presentation. It was very insightful. I'm working with the WaterWise Hub, Excellence Hub. And well, the questions on water are very related to infrastructure. It's very difficult to have decentralized infrastructure. It's very difficult to not to decentralize, to dematerialize the necessary infrastructure in these solutions. And we foresee that in the future we'll have water scarcity and we will need water circularity to solve these problems. And what we are identifying in the start of our project, because we started in January, is that we have to mobilize the quadruple helix and the public sector and the civil society. And it's a big challenge for us. And it will be, I think, for the next project as well, because as you have said, we have there are many servants a lot of less not only curriculum but also information. This information is not available so for them to have informed decisions, and I think it's a challenge that we have to answer in future projects.
Indeed. Thank you, Lenny.
Thank you. So Zoe?
Yes, Odysseus, I had a question on your comment on the workforce essentially gap that we have. Is this an identified like weak point, or was this like seen as a trend essentially in the workshop?
I think it was more a weak point becoming a trend.
I would say,
yeah,
yes, I would say that is definite from my experience, like the moment that you mentioned it, I've been in contact with startups, like companies like building, like going from pilot scale, like to lab scale, from lab scale to pilot scale to demo scale, like infrastructure. And they all struggle to find the right fermentation, like engineer, the right engineer, like, or the person that is going to be there running, like the machine. AI is not at that point, like where it can run tests, like and be in the sector. And they're all literally looking for the right person. And there is like, because I noted like a week, like a kind of like a trend that could become, it's the workforce ethic of the next generation, essentially. That could play a bigger role than we anticipate, or is already playing in this like
I think it's already playing, and
sort of
especially in
companies.
vocational education. The vocational education is almost broken, especially in countries like Greece. We don't have any vocational education here. We have low-level workers, and then we have university-level workers.
Yes.
We're missing the middle. Other countries like Germany, for instance, have been very successful in owning this middle ground, let's say, of workers, and they're doing it quite well. But at the European level, there is a clear trend that is missing, and I can see that even in Erasmus Plus calls. If you notice the work programs of Erasmus Plus, they are calling for this for solutions in this, how to educate next generation, especially in light of AI disruption.
Good. I think it's literally maybe a weak signal that's is going to be a trend. Well, I see it already happening. Okay, cool.
Derek, may I ask Odysseus something, or there is another one in Egypt?
To add something for the training, in Greece, in our parents' generation, in the 70s and 80s, they or other big companies, they paid the tuitions for engineers, and they had their internal school. They had internal school for training, and many other industries, they had internal training. Then we had the crisis, and we expect from graduates to spend 10 years training by themselves, that they pay themselves to find a job. And they say, oh, I cannot find what I want. Maybe companies should create the education they need. That's a
So thanks. And Nikos, I think you also had a comment.
Yeah, I had a general horizontal question about foresight. To some extent, the initial challenge statement or the initial questions that you need to clarify and describe the problem, the purpose for the foresight plays important role. I imagine, for example, that if It's a Foresight case understudies the future agri-farm in Greece. It sounds generalist. If you localize it, or make it more explicit, what will be the future with this cultivation in this area? Things are clearer, more specific. But you might lose the megatrends. Based on your experience, Odysseia, which is the best, let's say, beginning of exercise?
Yeah, I think you need both, Nikos, and you start with a broader view. Of course, you always try to limit and put some boundaries in terms of time. So how ahead you want to explore, sector and geographical region. So these are the three things that will help you put some boundaries. Now you start with a broader view, and then once you have identified your environment and the trends and the weak signals, then you may dig a little bit deeper and explore, some specific, let's say, food variety or one specific vertical sector. But you need to be careful not to be too specific, because you may lose information that runs around that. And the thing with the future, it's not something that you can predict as you saw. We try to be prepared about as many things as we know that may happen. So you need to run similar exercises, and you need to run, for instance, scanning, environmental scanning. And by environmental, I don't mean the environment per se. I mean, the environment, the business environment, or the geopolitical environment, or whatever else is of interest to you, so that you know what is appearing and you know how you can adapt.
I think we're about up to our hour. So if there's no other questions, I would like to give Odysseus an opportunity to kind of wrap everything up and give us some really big ideas to close with.
I think for me, it was a very interesting exercise. I see a lot of interconnections into this nexus: energy, water, food. And I think it literally affects everyone and everything. I see a big disruptor coming from the AI, and we haven't discussed, for instance, how the AI becoming a major consumer of electricity and water, how this will affect environmental impact. This is something that we probably need to discuss. I see solutions, but I don't necessarily see governance and willingness of the stakeholders to act towards them. So this is another thing. It seems sometimes that the willingness to implement is breaking, or it takes too long. That becomes irrelevant. Again, I think that it is part of our mandate and part of our job to be there to work in the innovation sector to try to bring all these stakeholders together, and hopefully at some point we'll find the right solutions. I don't have any other more profound words to say. I'd like to thank everyone for staying so long. I will share the presentations, I will share the insights that we have, and I hope that we can count you for future initiatives in the future. And I promise that we will end up in 1 hour, and we did exactly 1 hour. I hope it wasn't too painful.
While you were giving your final talk or wrap up, Sonia asked a question about the potential to collaborate with the clean algae to value, the Excel for Pro, the SolarHub, and the Echo projects. So I can talk about the Echo, SolarHub, and Excel for Pro. They're all excellent step projects. These three are coordinated out of Turkey. They all have partners in Thessaloniki. And I think more generally, there's a large cluster of excellent step projects that have partners in the world. There's a lot of opportunities to collaborate within this kind of Mediterranean region across these different thematic areas. And so at this point, I will wrap this up. I think that we do have this recorded and we will post this to a YouTube channel in the next few days. I would like to thank everyone for attending. And we have all of our previous webinars and the other Exosub and teaming projects available on the Widening Impacts website. So thank you very much. Thank you to Odysseus for the very informative presentation, for everyone's inputs. The discussion is very, very nice. And so I hope that we can find opportunities to collaborate again in the future. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Thank you.